Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. I am Hope Gibbs, and today is our first Author Take the Wheel of 2024. I cannot believe today is actually my 1 year anniversary doing this with Bookish Road Trip, and it's been such an honor, and I thank you all and to our wonderful authors. I cannot think of a better way to start out our new year than interviewing the author who has taken over our Facebook page this week with some incredible posts. She's so engaging. She's so charming. And did I say that she was a multi-award winning author? Carol, I am so happy to have you here to talk about you and your work and this amazing book.
Hope, it is such an honor to be here. Thank you for welcoming me. I love the Bookish Road Trip community, and happy anniversary to you, 1 year anniversary, and Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year. So before we get started today, I just wanted to let everyone know that if you have comments, sometimes I can't always see who I'm talking to. So if you have a comment or a question, because I love to bring in the audience, just ask them in the comments section, but add your name so we know who we're talking to. So before we get started, Carol, I want to give everyone a little bit of your very impressive bio. So here we go. Carol is an award-winning author who pens stories of resilience and hope. Her novels Orchid Blooming and Goodbye, Orchid draw from her Chinese American heritage. She has won over 30 literary awards and design awards, including American Fiction Award, IAN Outstanding Fiction for First Novel, and Royal Dragonfly Awards for Cultural Diversity and Disability Awareness. Buzzfeed, Parade, Travel+Leisure has named her books most anticipated reads. Glamour Magazine recommends her modern, important take on the power of love. Carol's mission is unlocking optimism as a writer, speaker, and strategist. One secret to her good fortune? It is her humorous husband and twins who prove that love really does conquer all. So I am just blown away by your talent. So the book that we're going to focus on today is your third in this series, correct?
Yeah, the third is the finale to the trilogy. So Always Orchid has, actually brought the whole trilogy to this, exciting end.
Yes, and so I'll be honest with you. I stumbled across you on social media last year, and I immediately was drawn to you, but I have not read the first two books. But the great thing about it is you don't have to read book one or two to immediately become invested in this story.
It's so good to hear. I certainly wrote each of the books in the entire trilogy as standalones, so they could be understood. No matter where you start in the story, no matter which book you pick up first, you should be able to follow the whole story. And
Yeah.
if you're efficiency minded, absolutely jump into book 3, into Always Orchid.
Yeah, and again, it was amazing to me because I didn't know. I like to go into books without knowing too much, but I was immediately drawn, especially the first chapter. That first chapter is a really hard chapter to read, but it immediately draws you to this story.
Now, when you say first chapter, Hope, are you talking about the prologue in which
Yes,
the
yes,
gentleman that Phoenix saves,
yes.
Roy, we get to meet him? Such an interesting character. I was not expecting to write about Roy when I was planning to write Always Orchid, because the first two books had really centered on Phoenix and Orchid and their relationship. And each of them goes through a growth arc. Orchid, incredibly, in Orchid Blooming. Phoenix goes through a life-changing accident and really grows a lot in Goodbye, Orchid. So I sat down to write about the two of them, and I found that a character was popping up on the page and raising his hand and saying that I needed to write his story and to share his point of view, and that he was seeking his own redemption. Because, of course, Phoenix, having saved Roy's life in that train accident, meant that it changed Phoenix's life. And so the journey all three of them take is incredibly heartwarming and heart-wrenching.
It is. And so your main protagonist, this book really does focus on this incredible woman named Orchid. Can you tell us, how did she come to life? And by the way, I love her name and the references of what it really means and how she's always shied away from orchids.
Yes, I mean, Orchid was born out of multiple things. First of all, she is half Asian, just like my twins are half Asian. My husband's Dutch. This is how I have this long Dutch last name, and I'm Chinese American by ancestry. And so she has that aspect to her background. And of course, that's meaningful because she loses her parents at a young age. And as a result, now as an adult, what she wants more than anything is to win that work trip to China to feel closer to the memory of her mother. And I love that you picked up on the name orchid, that it is meaningful because orchids have this reputation for being delicate. And Phoenix worries about her being delicate from having witnessed the death of her parents. However, orchidologists say that in the wild, orchids are quite hardy and resilient. And that is Orchid's character too, because dig deep down and she is strong and she will find her strength. Her strength will grow in the series as she deals with life challenges, as she deals with Phoenix's accident, as she strives to really come into her own.
And speaking of Phoenix, he is obviously featured throughout all three books. He is very present. He's Orchid's love interest. They kind of had, by reading between the lines from the backstory, two books that they, had this great attraction with each other. But Phoenix's name, it actually kind of means something as well. He kind of rises up from the ashes.
Yes, that name also was chosen quite deliberately because of the mythological character of the Phoenix, and it does come in the story as well. He rises in a way that really pays homage to combat wounded veterans, who I often say helped inspire this entire series.
Yeah, and you write about it so beautifully, so carefully. How much research and what kind of research did you go through to really tap into this because it was so believable?
Well, thank you for saying that because certainly authors, I think, all strive for authenticity. And for me, because the series is inspired by wounded veterans and by people with disabilities, I really wanted to respect and pay homage to their experiences. And therefore, the research was incredibly important. There were two kinds of research there was secondary research and primary research. And by secondary, I mean scouring all of the resources that were available, reading books on people who've been through injuries like Phoenix suffered, um, and then learning as much as I can from online resources, books, everything that's available out there. However, I did need to turn to primary research as well because I felt that there were still some questions I couldn't answer from the secondary research. I reached out and found that wounded veterans whom I asked if I could ask them questions were so generous with their time and sharing their experiences. And that really shaped the storytelling. In fact, I several Purple Heart decorated veterans, as well as other people with disabilities, were beta readers or what might be called sensitivity readers for the series.
Yeah. Well, we've got guests joining us. Barbara Connery, she made a comment. She said, I loved the chemistry between Orchid and Phoenix, but Roy's story in book three blew me away. And I didn't realize that this was his first appearance because, like I said, I have not read the first two. I couldn't agree more. They have such wonderful chemistry, and for the readers who are viewers who haven't watched or been able to read the book yet, they come back together under very harsh circumstances, but in a beautiful way.
It's so true. I mean, I think that's true for all three characters, for Roy as well. Difficult life, but actually to find some redemption and to find hope again in the midst of being homeless and have had a really difficult life is truly incredible. I often say that I think that's my mission in life is to inspire hope and empathy. And I think this Goodbye Orchid series is certainly intended to do that. And I do hear from readers that it does that. It's lovely to hear Barbara's on the line. She loved my books as well as Orchid Blooming, and her quote is actually on the cover of Orchid Blooming.
I did not realize that because I read it electronically. But speaking of which, we're talking about this book. I'm going to go back to. I want everyone to really look at this cover. It's stunning. All of your covers are incredible. How much effort or how much input did you actually get by design?
My debut novel came out from Kohler Books, and I worked with a designer on the Kohler team. I think what I was really able to input was some real depth and thinking and strategy behind the brief. The way in which I let the designer know what we wanted to communicate and why that was meaningful, and to do it in a way that inspired her design. These designs have won awards because of the, kind of emotive quality to them. And I love that the orchids on the front covers are not just static images. In Goodbye Orchid, which was the debut novel, the orchids are shattering to represent the physical and emotional shattering of the characters. And in the other books, the orchids are in motion, just like the characters are in motion and growing.
I love that. And you talked about awards, and I took this off of your website because I was so impressed. I mean, have you lost count of how many awards this series has won? It's just beyond.
I did have to go back and recalculate because the awards were coming in for my third novel, For Always Orchid. And I realized, although my website, the bio that you read said 30 plus, I think that the series has now hit 40 awards. And it
That
is.
that is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And congratulations, and it's well deserved.
Thank you so kindly. And I see your book being awarded as well. You and I are often in the same contest. So congratulations to you too.
Well, congratulations. Yes, I thought I'd written women's fiction, but it leans more, I guess, contemporary romance. But it's what I read. I love that genre. So let's talk a little bit about your background, because you weren't always a writer. And the thing that I love here at Bookish Road Trip is that we have so many enthusiastic readers who are curious, genuinely, like, how does an idea end up at my library or in my bookstore or in my Amazon Kindle? We also have a lot of us, people who are thinking about writing. Can you tell us a little bit about your own journey?
And so people come to writing from all different paths. For me, I was actually going through a difficult time with one of my children. So I initially turned to writing as a place of solace for myself. It also was coming back to a very early love because I've always loved reading and writing even as a kid. And so when I started writing, I thought I was writing for myself until I joined a writers group. It was a critique group in which we would read our work out loud to each other every other week in Mary Lee's kitchen table. And when I brought portions of Goodbye Orchid to that group, I actually read the scene in which Phoenix wakes in the hospital after his life-changing accident. And I brought that table of writers to tears. And I thought, you know what? Maybe this work isn't just for me, but has the power to move others. And I've really come to see that now that the series is out in the world, that the series can deepen empathy, can open eyes to experiences for people with disabilities. And all of that is incredibly meaningful. I think that if people are here who want to pursue the path to publication, I would definitely encourage that. There is so much richness in writing, in experiencing that, in deepening our own thinking through writing. And then to be able to connect with readers is a whole new experience, which Hope I know you have experienced as well.
Yes, and so you're right. It's amazing when you connect with readers that you're not related to or are your friends, and there's something special about that. What do you think has been the most life-changing aspect of being a published, award-winning author in your life?
Hmm. My gosh, I'd love to know your answer to this question too, Hope, because that's a tough one. I think that for me, it's opened up a whole new world, right? So we're here virtually today. Hope you and we would not have crossed paths if it weren't for our bookish lives. And I would say the same for so many who are watching the video now or watching it later. I feel that I've had this connection with so many readers online now, people who are part of my Goodbye Orchid Facebook group. I hope that Bambi Rathman and Robin Batterson might be on, who help me administer my online presence. And, Barbara was just speaking. These are all people whom I wouldn't have known if it weren't for this bookish life. And so that amount of connection is so incredible. It reminds me, Hope, I don't know if you've ever heard of this research. Apparently, neurologists, people who study the science of the brain, had measured where the brain activity is in an author as they were writing a passage and in readers who are reading that same passage. My understanding of the research is that they found that the same areas of the brain light up, almost creating this idea that there's a brain to brain connection between readers and writers. And I just think, the peace that we need in the world, the empathy we need in the world, writing and reading and literature can absolutely contribute to that. And I feel proud to be part of that.
That is amazing. I have never heard that study. I think I'm going to Google that after we get off. But I will let you know that Bambi is absolutely here. And she says, I agree. We wouldn't have ever met, in quote unquote, if not for your amazing work. And that is so special to make a connection. Like, as you said, we would have never connected other than this love and this beauty of books.
So true. Yeah.
And Barbara said, may I be so bold, Carol? I think your writing experience has allowed you to educate people on what it is exactly like to be disabled.
Mm. It is a mission that I don't think I even knew was going to be in my lifetime. I think if I had told childhood me that that would be something I could accomplish, I would not have believed it. But it is incredible to me that readers, either who have disabilities or have been through medical challenges, feel very seen on the pages of the Goodbye Orchid series, or people who haven't been through that feel that their understanding of that experience has been deepened, is so rewarding. Hope, you talked about the awards that the series has won. Some of the awards that have meant the most to me, certainly the ones around women's fiction and multicultural diversity, are meaningful, but also the series has won Royal Dragonfly Awards for disability awareness. And Springboard Consulting named me Disability Hero of the Year for the work on the Goodbye Orchid series.
Congratulations. What an honor. And let's circle back to this book because you write and you're very honest with the reader about the challenges that Phoenix has in his everyday life, especially trying to hide it because Phoenix and Orchid are back together, but his life at home is very different than what she has seen. So can you talk a little bit about those passages?
Yeah, those are really meaningful. And I'll just say that these two characters, the way that they're designed, is to make this circumstance even more challenging. The fact that Phoenix, as a result of saving Roy's life, now will never be the same again. And also because Orchid had tragedy as a child, the fact that she lost her parents at a young age, that she witnessed their accident, and therefore is sensitive to images of trauma, makes the two of them the most unlikely couple you could possibly put together. And so it adds so much emotional gravitas to those scenes. For instance, when Orchid visits Phoenix's apartment for the first time since the accident and realizes that adaptations have been made, that his sink has been lowered, and then his own sense of wanting to try to preserve her memory of the way he was before the accident by, for instance, trying not to allow her into his bathroom, which has been made accessible. He doesn't want her to see those things. And yet she is incredibly sensitive and she does see those things. And she lets him know in small and big ways that they don't matter to her, that she loves him wholly for who he is. And he is much bigger and beyond his injuries.
Yes, and I'm not giving anything away because this is towards the beginning of the book. Orchid she's got the dream job. It's the job that she's wanted. She wants to go to China, and when they reconcile, Phoenix says, "I'm going to support you. I'll go with you," because I think she has to be there for at least a year. Talk about when the book goes there and the new challenges that they both face.
And that is such the crux of the difficulty, because this is what she's been dreaming about, to feel closer to the memory of her mother. Her mother's ancestry is from China. She's worked so hard to win this assignment to China. And yet, Phoenix, therefore, has to give up what he has built in New York. He's the head of an ad agency. And so there's a sacrifice right there. And then to layer on top of that, the idea that in China, there are still some old and perhaps deep rooted superstitions against people with disabilities. Some people might hold the idea that disability means that you perhaps made a bad decision in a previous life, and this is now karma come back in the form of a disability. And so that level of, prejudice against people with disabilities is going to affect his experience when he goes to China. And that was something, that even amplifies what he's already concerned about as somebody who's newly disabled.
Yeah, and I found it amazing. It's somewhere in the book, and I think I have this right, that by the time we're 80, I think you said how there's a large percentage. If you make it to the age of 80, you will have some sort of a disability. I was shocked.
It's true. And I think I've heard people with disabilities say this, which is that disability is going to affect almost all of us. It's just a matter of when in our lives. At some point, a sight might start to fail, or a hearing might start to fail, or we'll have mobility challenges. And these are things that certainly face the characters in this series.
Well, we're getting more comments. We have a Facebook user. I'm sorry, I don't see your name. It just says Facebook. Definitely so glad I came to your signing and got to meet and chat with you. We have another Facebook user who said, wow, I didn't know about the last award. What an honor. And as we all agree, well deserved. And Barbara Miller from Northeast Florida just joined. And so just for everyone to know, if you're going to watch this later, keep commenting, ask questions, because Carol is going to get on and she'll answer your questions. I'll get on, I'll comment, but keep the questions going, because I'm finding it fascinating, everyone's take on just how, Carol, not just your book, but how you as a person, you've really changed people, and you're a very giving writer, author in this community. You like to help others.
Mm, that's so kind of you. And I would say, the author community is a warm, welcoming place. I find many authors helping each other out. In fact, just what you're doing, Hope, you're interviewing authors, you're welcoming them to Bookish Road Trip. That also is so giving. And it's great to hear that Barbara Miller is here along with everyone else. I have loved seeing people's comments on the posts this week. People have been sharing pictures of their pets. People have been talking about what their Chinese zodiac sign is and whether they relate to that. People have been commenting on the video from Sergeant Brian Anderson, who talks about how meaningful the series is to him. Brian has helped me with the series right from the beginning, and he's another Purple Heart decorated veteran who has been through an incredible challenge. He lost both his legs and his left hand in Iraq because of an IED explosion. And yet he tells me, and I've talked to him many, many times, he says even if he could change his accident, if he could undo it, he would not, because it has made him such a strong person and has deepened his empathy and has made his life actually very full.
Well, isn't it amazing what the power of storytelling and the power of bringing people together, and having someone like that in your circle? It's definitely, it's an enriching, crazy, wonderful experience. So we've got more comments. Barbara said, this is an awesome series and the awards are, again, well deserved. And then it's Robin. Robin, hello. She was our Facebook user who was asking some of those great questions. So let's go back. So this is a series. It's concluded, correct? Are we going to revisit Orchid, Phoenix in the future? Maybe even Roy? Because like Barbara said, I was very drawn to Roy, and I love his arc in this book.
I'm glad, because I feel like, each of these books really shines a light on different aspects that can relate to wounded veterans. And Roy was a veteran, became homeless when he came back from active service and couldn't find a job or keep a job. That is something that happens in real life. And so shining a light on that being temporarily unhoused, that the fact of being temporarily unhoused is certainly not, illegal. It can happen to anyone. And the ways in which he strives to make his life better actually adds a new angle in addition to the physical disability that is addressed through Phoenix's story and the PTSD that's addressed through Orchid's story.
Yeah. His inner monologue in those first early chapters, it's heartbreaking. You're just one bad moment to completely changing your life forever. And you can tell that he's so hopeless, but I would love to for you to revisit him because he definitely touched me. Barbara said, I would like to hear about Roy too. So I agree with you, Barbara. I would like to hear more about him. So you're not just a writer, you're a wife, you're a mom, but you also do speaking engagements. Tell us a little bit about that.
I love public speaking because I think it gives a way in which for us to, as humanity, really exchange ideas. And so I speak publicly, mostly at writing and publishing conferences. So I've spoken at Writers Digest, Independent Book Publishers Association, Novelists Inc., Rutgers Writers Conference, so many. I can't even name all of the places I've spoken. And it's a way for me both to connect as well as to give back to the author community, to teach what I know. By day, I've had a career as a marketer, a strategist. I currently work in the area of digital strategy and am going to be actually responsible AI officer for Mars Incorporated. That's my new job that's coming about. And so what I do is I translate what I've learned through those years of marketing, strategy, insights, digital, to what is relevant for authors to really, add and enhance this community.
And before I even started with the whole marketing of my book, I was shocked about how much I didn't know and how much work authors have to do on their own. Even if you're with the big, 5 publishers, marketing is just as important as writing that book.
And by marketing, for anyone who's listening, I simply define that as finding and connecting with the readers for whom your work is going to resonate and for whom your work is going to touch their hearts, make a difference in their lives. It is hard, and the numbers kind of tell that story, Hope. Something like 2 or 3 million books are published a year. And with the advent of self-publishing, that number has really exploded. And so to be able to break through in that busy environment, to find the readers for whom this work is meaningful, that is a lot of work. And so for everyone out there, I think Barbara and Robin and Bambi and all the people who are on the line right now and will be watching later, I think that the power of your voice to be able to tell your friends, to tell your bookstore, to ask your library to order our books does make a difference. And we, I think I speak on behalf of Hope and myself and other authors, really thank you.
Very
Thank
much.
you for doing that. Thank you for writing reviews. Thank you for your word of mouth. Thank you for your support.
And you are a very big believer in get your author brand down, like to really create an author brand.
Yeah, and the word brand can be a little off-putting. Sometimes people think, well, brand is a thing. Like brand is the Coke I drink or the Starbucks I buy. And so I try to just simplify that concept when I speak at writers' conferences to say brand is simply a promise. It is your promise to readers. And so, for instance, for me to define myself, why I write beyond the obvious profit and functional purposes, it's important for me to know, and I often talk about it as well, that I aim to inspire hope and empathy for people and planet, and sometimes pets too.
Ironically, I'm babysitting my granddog and I had her downstairs and she's opened a door and she just came in the frame when your cat came in the frame. So I wonder what that says about us.
Well,
Because
this is so off topic, but I just saw a video that they taught parakeets. Apparently, there are many exotic birds who get lonely if they're the only bird in the household. So they taught them how to FaceTime each other by choosing a button on an app. and they find that certain birds are quite sociable and will call, multiple birds because they're looking for that social interaction.
I love that. Well, I am so sad that our time is running out, and luckily we still have you at Bookish Road Trip. Obviously, you're a member, but we still have you for another day and a half of post. And I know our community; they have responded. They've so enjoyed this week. How can our membership keep in touch with you? Your website, your social media?
I'm certainly available on social media, and I would love for people to sign up for my newsletter. So simply go to my website, carolvandenhende.com/contact to sign up for my newsletter to be able to keep in touch. And definitely do that for all the authors that you enjoy, including Hope.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, Carol, I cannot thank you enough. Next month, we're going to be doing February Author Take the Wheel, and we're going to have kind of a surprising, kind of a romantic kind of twist since it is February. And I hope everyone will stay tuned. And again, Carol, thank you so much, and everyone who joined us, Barbara, Bambi, all of you guys, thank you so much. And until next time.
Thanks, everyone.